If you've ever set up a Google Ads campaign from the very beginning in full and set it to go live, but go days or even weeks without spending anywhere near your full daily budget, in today's video, we're going to walk you through the exact steps to make sure that you spend your daily budget. As we've done so for this campaign that's been running for just over a month and generated 29 conversions in that time, but was struggling to spend initially and wouldn't have been able to get to this point if we hadn't made the adjustments that I'll show you inside this video. Now, the first thing we did was increased the bid itself, so under bidding in campaign settings. Now, this bidding strategy is currently using Target CPA, which we've only switched across to more recently because we've actually been able to generate that conversion data for Target CPA to work. But what we were using initially, and what I would always recommend, is Maximize Clicks, where you have a maximum cost per click bid limit set. And initially, we simply just had the cost per click bid limit set as low as possible to try and get traffic for the minimum cost per click possible. But when we saw that we were really struggling to spend the budget, slowly increasing this cost per click bid limit is what really allowed us to get to the point where we were actually getting conversion data in at the rate we wanted to, so that we'd be able to switch across to Target CPA. So raising your initial bid is the first thing, and this usually applies more so to manual CPC or Maximize Clicks, where you have a cost per click bid limit in place. But this can also apply to Target CPA as well if you're struggling to spend your budget, where you can simply increase your Target CPA if you're struggling to spend your budget, or alternatively even remove your Target CPA and only run with maximized conversions, as this will definitely help get your budget to spend more, but will also come with the risk of paying a higher cost per lead because you don't have that target in place. But adjusting your bids is the first thing that you can do to get your budget to spend. The next one then is the actual search volume of your keywords in the area that you're targeting. So when you're doing your keyword research initially, after entering in the location that you want to target, when you're looking at the actual keywords then that you want to target for your campaign, we've always had a clean campaign structure for this campaign from the very beginning. And what I mean by that is targeting keywords that have at least 30 or more average monthly searches. Because if you're running all exact match keywords, as I recommend for new campaigns at the very beginning, you don't want to target a lot of keywords that have below 30 average monthly searches, simply because you're going to have a lot of keywords that aren't doing anything inside your campaign. So you want to make sure the keywords that you're targeting have at least 30 or more average monthly searches, because if you're targeting keywords that actually have search volume, you know that you're going to generate impressions, and as long as the ads of those ad groups are relevant to those keywords, then you're likely going to get clicks and actually spend your budget. And another option you have as well is that if you're struggling to find enough keywords that actually have search volume to use for your campaigns, is that you're likely going to have to add some keywords as phrase match instead of exact match to your campaign, to allow you to appear for more search terms that the exact match keyword wouldn't have triggered your ad for. So that way then you're able to get more search volume without necessarily having more keywords, because the phrase match variance will allow your ads to show for more searches. So that's almost 2 points within one, is that the keywords that you want to use, you want to actually have keywords with search volume. And if you're struggling for search volume on the keywords that you are targeting, then you're likely going to need to have some phrase match variants of those keywords. And this leads us on to the next point then, which is your ad groups. So if you're doing extra keyword research and can't find any additional keywords that would perform well within your existing ad groups, then you might need to find new keywords and make new ad groups out of those keywords if you need to get more search volume and the ads that you're already running aren't appropriate for new potential keywords. So what you want to do is think about all of the services that your company offers. So for example, roofing in this case covers a wide of different services, so you can add more ad groups for each of the services that the company offers. But what you can also do as well, which we like a lot, is looking at all of the individual locations, so not just the state or county that the company is based in, but the smaller areas that have a decent amount of population within those bigger areas, and making individual ad groups for those. Because if somebody is searching for example, a roofer in a specific area, and then they see an ad that's specific to that area, and the landing page that they arrive on is also specific to that area, then you're likely going to have a much higher conversion rate from that alone. So making new ad groups for either your locations or your services, or ideally both, is another good way of getting that search volume up. And the more ad groups that you have with keywords that have search volume, the more likely you are to actually spend your budget. And the more ad groups and the more relevant those ad groups are as well, the higher your conversion rates and lower your cost per conversions will be as well, because you're not trying to group everything into a somewhat relevant ad group when everything is clearly aligned from start to finish within each ad group. Because in this ad group here, for example, all of the keywords are related to roofer in this location Drogheda, and then that way then we can have highly relevant ads that say roofer in Drogheda. And then if the landing page also says roofer in Drogheda, this is why this ad group has been able to have 8 conversions from 49 clicks, or a conversion rate of roughly 16%. And another thing you want to do as well is go to your negative keyword lists and make sure that you haven't accidentally added negatives that are actually blocking you from searches that you want to appear for. And now most of these negatives that we've added here are to ad groups from the search terms appearing inside the wrong ad group. So for example, this search term here, we'd be fine with appearing in a different ad group, but because it appeared in the roof repair ad group, it was added as a negative at the ad group level. So it's just about being careful that any negatives that you've added, you haven't accidentally blocked yourself from appearing from searches that you want to appear for. So looking through the negative keyword list first of all, and what I'll also do as well if you want to make sure that none of your negatives are accidentally blocking out relevant searches, is that I'll leave the link up above to another video that explains how negatives work, including their match types, which works a lot differently to match types of keywords themselves. Another thing you want to look at as well if you're struggling to spend your daily budget is your targeting settings as well. So for example, firstly, your locations, is that making sure that you're actually targeting a wide enough location for your campaign, and potentially adding in more locations if your company is willing to target a wider area. This will also include devices as well, so when and where ads are showed, and making sure that you haven't completely blocked any devices, even though in a lot of cases I do recommend excluding tablets because they typically don't do much, or else you can just leave them run for your campaign. It's up to yourself. And what you also want to double check as well is your audiences. And first of all, you just want to check audience segments and make sure that any audience segments you have are set to observation mode and not targeting. Because if you have them set to targeting, it'll just greatly limit the audience that could potentially see your ads. So that's what you want to do first of all. And then under demographics as well, just checking if you have any, for example, negative bid adjustments set to age, gender, or household income. That could also be limiting the potential audience that can see your ads. And lastly then, for targeting settings, we have ad schedules. So it's only more recently that I prefer having ads set to run 24/7 for new lead gen campaigns, as I would have typically recommended before to have your ads set to run during working hours Monday to Friday, or if that's when you're able to, for example, answer the phone or get back to a lead as soon as possible. And I still would recommend running your ads during the business hours if that's when works best for you. But if you are struggling to spend your budget, then having your ads set to run during more hours of the day is another good way of having your ads shown more often and spending more budget. And lastly then, one other thing you can check when you click on campaigns and then have your campaign open is that what you can do is pull up some columns here. So under modify columns, you go to competitive metrics and make sure search impression share, search loss impression share due to rank, and search loss impression share due to budget are all selected. And you can see we have these 3 metrics pulled up here, and it's just to give you a good idea of how often your ads are being shown for how often they could be, which is what your search impression share is. Your search loss impression share due to rank, and your search loss impression share due to budget. And what you'll notice is that these 3 numbers here will always add up to 100%. And if you notice that you're not getting a lot of traffic, here is the best place to look to see, why that is. And the chances are, if you're struggling to spend your budget, then your search loss impression share due to budget is going to be very low. But if you have a search loss impression share due to rank that is high, like we have here, then the simplest way of reducing this is simply increasing your bid. So if you're using a target CPA like we showed at the very beginning, then if we wanted to get this number down and have our ads shown a lot more often, then we could simply increase our bid. And this also applies as well if you're using maximize clicks and you have a cost per click bid limit, you can simply reduce this number here and have a higher search impression share by increasing your max cost per click bid limit. And lastly then, if your search impression share is a low number like we have here, then what's good about that is that that there's a lot more traffic out there for the keywords that you're targeting in the locations that you're targeting. But if you're struggling to spend your budget and your search impression share is high, then that's a good indication that you'll need to add in more keywords and expand your locations, because there simply isn't much more other traffic out there that you could be capturing if you adjusted your search loss impression share due to rank by increasing your bid or increasing your budget to fix your search loss impression share due to budget. But overall, these metrics are always worth looking at just to give you an idea of how good your overall visibility is and where you're missing out on traffic. And if you are missing out on traffic, you're able to see here where that traffic is being missed. So I hope this video helped and gave you clarity on how to go about getting your budget to spend more if your budget's struggling to spend. And if you do have any questions about any of the methods we mentioned to get your budget spending inside this video, or anything else we mentioned about impression share and search loss impression share towards the end of the video, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you are a service-based business looking to have all your campaigns fully managed and done for you, feel free to have a look at the link in the description. Or if you are running your own Google Ads campaigns or for other service-based businesses, and if there's any parts of the campaign creation process or optimization that you're not sure of, there should be a playlist that appears on the screen now that contains all of the individual steps in setting up and managing a successful Google Ads campaign from start to finish.